Well, first of all, tell us what are the symptoms of heat stroke and heat exhaustion, and if you are experiencing this, are you aware that that's what's going on at the time?
Well, the bottom line is you have to know these signs and symptoms, these warning signs. If you're out in the heat, first of all, if you don't have to be out in the heat, let's not be out in the heat if it's not necessary. But if you are out in the heat, say, for instance, you work in the heat, the bottom line is what you want to look out for are these warning signs. And these warning signs can include just profuse sweating. I mean, just sweating. And then you might become what's called shortness of breath. You're breathing very hard. You find it hard to catch your breath. That's when you need to start worrying, okay? But then for some people, as you get into the heat injury, you might have confusion. You know, you're a little bit confused. At that point, you need to get out of the heat. And if you have someone with you, get them out of the heat. Now, a person that stays in the heat, they might get worse, where they might even start, they might stop sweating and their skin becomes very dry and hot. In this scenario, the person's nervous system pretty much just shuts down the sweating and you're not able to sweat anymore. That's when you're at risk for a heat stroke, and that could be deadly. At that point, call 911.
Dr. Quinn, if we feel those symptoms, what can we do to get our body cool?
Well, the most important thing to remember is get out of the heat. You know, get into a cool environment, an air conditioner. If you're outside, get under a shade tree. You want to try to hydrate. And if you don't get better right away, I advise you to go ahead and don't hesitate to call 911. Also, it's very important, if you're somebody that has to be outdoors, hydrate. For those people working outdoors, take a break every hour in the cool area for at least 10 to 15 minutes and drink an entire bottle of water every hour. And if it's really hot, like right now, I say every 30 minutes, because safety, that's the most important thing. And this heat, it can be very, very dangerous.
Dr. Quinn, what should we do if we see someone who looks like they're beginning to show these signs of suffering from a heat stroke or exhaustion?
That's a very good question, because, you know, you might have a neighbor. Like, for instance, I have a neighbor. She's an elderly lady, and she was out in her yard, and I saw her out there, and it was really hot, and I was looking out the window, and I just walked out, and I just asked her, I said, "Are you okay?" You know, Mrs., I'm not going to say her name, but the bottom line is, let's check on our buddies. And if they seem to be a little, you know, out of it, or especially our senior citizens, because they're more vulnerable, just advise them, as I did. I just said, "Hey, let's go back in the house." And I tell you what, ma'am, I'll come out and water your flowers a little later, because at the end of the day, we have to look out for our buddies, because, as I said, this heat, it can be very dangerous.
All right. Very good advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Timothy Quinn, for being with us.